The less you do, the deeper you go. What if I told you that the way you're approaching your spiritual journey and your path as a mystic is entirely backwards? Now, I'm Eternos, and it is my mission to make spirituality accessible to as many people in the world. And to do that, I chose the path of simplicity. And we live in a society where, unfortunately, everything is centered around hustle. But it's okay, because today I'm going to show you why growing is one of the easiest things you can do. And as long as you are willing and able to learn, you can compound it and compound it quickly. Let's get into this. So here's the issue with the world that we live in today. This is what the world we live in today teaches. In order to become a thing, you have to work to get there. For those of you who don't believe me, watch this. You want to become rich? Well, you don't just start rich, you have to work hard to get there. You want to be in shape? You have to work out to get there, right? Think about it. This is how society's set up. Now, I'm not saying that some of these aren't right. I'm just saying this is how everything is programmed. Like, you can think about anything, like literally any type of state, even fulfillment. You know, they teach you if you want to be fulfilled, then you need to work hard to gain that fulfillment. It's the same thing. I see patterns and I identify processes often. The issue with this is that from when you are a child and you first step into school, this is what's drilled into you. If you want to do well, you have to work hard. If you want to exceed in life or succeed in life, you have to get good grades. It's this consistent cycle of action then leading to some sort of identity. Sorry, the issue with this is, for a lot of people, when you framed your whole life in this way, when it then comes to spiritual things, you make it way more complicated than it needs to be, right? And this is what happens, right? People see it like a game, or they watch shows like Solo Leveling and they think, all right, cool, I have to really work hard to level up. Now, hear me out very carefully. There is work and there is effort and there is action, but that action should be effortless. Effortless action. What am I talking about? I'm talking about this concept called Wu Wei. Effortless action. Here is what I teach. I teach that instead of you having to act to then obtain an identity, rather we instill an identity for you to then act from. You see the difference? And this is what I mean when it comes to spirituality, when it's like, when you do less, you go deeper. You need to get out of the way of yourself. There are so many people who think that spirituality is tied up in all these different actions and things that we do. And so they think that in order to become more spiritual, which is an identity, you have to do things such as meditate, such as, for some people, pray, maybe fast. This is wrong. Quite frankly, when you operate from this level of consciousness, from the consciousness of, I have to act, I have to do things to become someone, you are creating a separation between yourself and where you want to be and who you want to be. So what happens when you flip it? Rather than you doing a bunch of actions to try and become more spiritual, right, which leads to its whole set of problems, right? Why don't we just start you off as someone who is aware of who they are and then you act from that? Okay, now, this is the issue, right, that a lot of people then have when they begin to act in this way. I'm going to talk about what this leads to, okay? When you believe that you have to do things to become a certain way, a list of actions becomes attached, to your identity. What I mean by this is, if you believe that meditation is what makes you spiritual, then if you stop consistently meditating, you're going to feel less spiritually connected. If you believe that prayer is what brings you closer to God or a good Christian, when you stop praying, you're not going to feel close to God. Which in its own way is arrogant, because you're saying that anything you can do, and it's your actions that dictates how close you are to a being that's already told you that you're both entangled and you're one and you're tied. An omniscient being, you're creating separation between. An omnipresent being, you're creating separation between. Do you understand? I digressed for a little there. But here's the point I'm making, okay? This all stems from an issue that a lot of people have, known as people pleasing. And I'm going to keep this on the board. I want you to understand this. As a child, often, right, you have this desire to please your parents. And so what happens is you try and become or craft yourself into the identity that your parents want for you. Am I right or am I wrong? And so what happens is, when you're in the house with your parents, when you do things wrong or bad, they tell you off. When you do things good, you're rewarded, right? How you feel is completely dependent on how they act. It's instilled in you from a child. And so what happens is you get into a habit of thinking, okay, if I listen to my mum and dad, if I do my chores, if I get good grades, then I will become a good son / daughter. I'm literally writing like this. That's crazy. When it comes to God, the divine, it is of course a mother and father and child relationship. So when you become aware that the father is your father and the mother is your mother, right? This is spiritual I'm talking. You then take this and apply what you've been taught as a child. Now hear me out. You apply what you've been taught as a child to a completely different spiritual framework. And so now you believe that if you obey God, if you do what God tells you to do, if you live up to good standards, then you become a good person, whatever. And now what this leads to is it leads to a bunch of people who are overly performative and who have not mastered the art of being able to rest and allow themselves to grow naturally. And so here is how we actually flip it. Here is how we stop being performative, we stop doing more, and we learn to just rest and relax. It all starts with your identity. Now, since I'm teaching you a new way to think, I want you to sit down and ask yourself a few questions of who do I want to be? Who do you want to be? Okay? Most people say, I want to be someone who is spiritually powerful. I'm just going to put the term son. Son is gender neutral, so it applies to both. Or maybe I'll put mystic, actually. That's a good term I can use. Someone with spiritual power, significance, a good relationship with source, the whole shebang. Someone who's connected. Right? Someone who is awakened, whatever term you want to use. Here's how you flip it. You don't think, what do I do or what do I need to do to get here? You first adopt the thinking of a mystic, of a son, because you already have access. You already have access to the spirit. You already have a spirit that is powerful, that is strong, that is able to do all the things you could ever want it to do. Okay? That's part of you already. You just need to learn to connect with it. And so what you need to do, and what we're doing here, is we're teaching our soul and our physical body to align with what already is within our spirit. Let's look at it like this. Are you meditating to obtain the ability to fly? Why are you meditating to obtain the ability to fly when your spirit can already fly and your soul can already fly? You're putting yourself in a position of weakness. And so you've created that weakness for yourself. Understand what I'm saying when I say the less you do, the deeper you go. Okay? This is all about radical acceptance of who you already are. You don't need to try to obtain anything. You need to connect with who you are. So understand, let's say you want to work on your spiritual sight, on your vision, okay? How most people attack this, which is what I used to do, was I'm going to train my spiritual eyes to open. I can burst open my spiritual eyes, okay? What do? Action to then reach a state of having open spiritual eyes. That's wrong. Let's flip it. Let's approach it from the consciousness of someone who already has open eyes. Well, if you have open eyes, like I have open eyes now, what am I doing? I'm just looking, I'm practicing seeing. So rather than trying to open your eyes, understand that you're a spirit and your spirit has eyes and they work perfectly fine. You just need to connect with them. So when you sit down, you rest, relax, you don't strain, and you just trust. And you connect with your spirit, and then bit by bit you start to see. You don't worry about how it works. You don't worry about if you're doing it right. You don't worry about, oh, is there some 10 meditation step framework? You do less, and because of that, you go deeper. I know the school system that we live in today teaches us that there are these complicated syllabuses and this and that, and it's all complex, but my role is to make spirituality simple. And so for anything you want, right, the way in is rest. The way in is relaxing and allowing it just to happen and to be. The reason why I say this is because in everything that you do from now on, I want you to think about that, right? I need to do less to go deeper. I can just be more, okay? Just from who I am. I already have all the access that I need spiritually, right? I can already do all the things that I want to do. My spirit can, and so I just need to learn to be still and connect with it, okay? Now that's just a very short lesson. If you were taking notes, there is a lot that you can learn from that. If you are interested in learning more, feel free to join the Academy. The link will be in the description. Right now it's in the waiting list phase for its first intake. I'm not sure how many people I'm going to take in the first intake, but join the list if you are interested in that. But anyway, guys, that was a little quick lesson from me. Peace.